Hey crafty friends, today we are going to sew this felt bird. He is tropical. If you choose tropical colors, he could also be local. His wings can flap. He is really fun, and this is a great beginner level project for someone who has never sewn before and just wants to start dabbling in hand sewing, or someone who's looking for a cute, easy to piece together project that can be done in less than an hour. I have a link to a free pattern on my website in the description below, so go ahead, click that link, print that pattern, come back here, and we will sew this together. To make this bird felt plushie, you're going to need a few supplies. Pattern, printable in the description link below, some colors of felt that you want for your bird. I'm going to make mine kind of a pair, so I have a color for the wings, a color for the body, and a color for the beak and tails. Something to cut your felt with, something to trace your pattern with, a sewing needle. This is an embroidery needle, so it's got a bigger eye right here, and it's just meant for thicker thread. This is also embroidery thread and the colors of your bird. So I've got two colors here, one for where I'm going to sew on the legs, one to sew around the body, and this third color is for the bird's eyes, and then something to stuff your bird with. So this is polyfill, it's what's used in most stuffed animals. You can also use felt scraps or cotton swabs. Sometimes I use torn up plastic bags, kind of anything you find around the house. So go ahead and get your pattern printed, cut it out, come back here, and let's sew this together. Once you have your pattern cut out, it's time to start tracing, and make sure when you're tracing your pattern, instead of just tossing it in the middle, put it right at the edge of where you're tracing so you can maximize your felt. And also all of these that say cut to, trace it one time on the side where it has the words and then flip it over this way for the second time that you trace. This will just make the pattern line up better when we're sewing it together. So go ahead, get your pattern pieces, line them up on your felt and trace them, and then come back here and we'll cut them out. Now we get to cut them out. As you're cutting out your pattern, just make sure that you cut on the inside of it so that you're cutting your black line off. But slowly and carefully with little snips. And you want to cut the line off and hang on to this scrap felt, because again, it's great for stuffing if you don't have polyfill, or if you don't want to use it, or if you want to put that scrap felt to use. It is amazing for stuffing into your plush at the end. Now that we have all the pieces of our bird, we're going to start putting some of the details on. I'm going to start by making an eye. So I'm getting my dark colored thread, threading my needle, and as I pull it through, I'm lining up the two ends together and doing a loop knot with it, where you go around and in. And I usually put my fingers over the knot as I pull it through. And I'm going to think where I want my eye. You might want to take your beak piece and put it in as if it's for the bird to help you guess. I think right here looks like a good place for an eye. So I'm going to go from the back of my fabric and then pull it halfway through and then go through the front and pull this, and then I'm going to get this loop of thread close to the end but not all the way there and stick my needle through it and then pull it tight. And that's going to knot it in place, giving us this eye. Now this eye is a little small for me. I would like it to be a bit bigger. And what I'm going to do is just do a few more of those loop knots. So back here, I'm going to go through it again, pull it all the way forward this time, and then just make sure that I'm crossing over where my first eye dot was. It's a little better. I want it just even a little bigger. So I'm going to do it one more time. There we go. So this is my, you know what? I want even one more. I'm going to do four. A 4 loop eye. There we go. Now I'm going to tie it off in the back by putting my needle through one of these bundles of thread and then grabbing the tail end of it that just came through my bird and wrapping it 1, 2 times around the top of my needle, putting my finger over the top and pulling it through. Trim off my threads, and we have a good looking eye in the front, and we have some messy threads on the back. Now I'm going to line up my 2 bird pieces, and I want the messy threads to be on the inside of both of them. So I'm going to put an eye on this side and make sure that I'm starting it over here. So the finished eye is on the outside and the messy knots are on the inside. Once we have the 2 eyes sewn on with the messy knots on the inside of both of them, we're going to do the same thing with the legs. So this time I'm doing yellow, doing my loop knot again, We're going to put the yellow felt leg on the top and we're going to flip it over to the messy side of the knot. So we're going to find where it's going to go through both pieces of felt. Be careful with your fingers. Poke that needle through. Don't pull it all the way tight over here. We're going to poke it back in pretty close to where we started. Pull it and then put it through this loop right here and pull it tight. Now we've got our leg attached, and we don't need this to be quite so big of a knot as our eye. So I'm just going to go through my loop right here, wrap this twice, 1, 2, pull it through and snip it off. Now I've got my bird with a leg, and I've got my messy knots on the inside of both of those. I'm going to repeat this for the other side. All right, now we have the messy knots on the inside and the tidy knots on the outside, so these still line up really nice. Now we're going to get our arms added, and we're going to add the arms the same way that we did those legs. So line them up how you want them on your bird. If you want your arms going up, if you want your arms going down, figure out what feels good to you, get it aligned, and we're going to do just like we did with that leg knot. We're going to do just a single knot for the wing. Just a single knot for this one as well. 2 loops around the needle and pulling it out. Repeat on the other bird for the other wing. All right, so now we have our 2 birds with the messy knots on the inside and the tidy knots on the outside. We have not yet attached this tail or the beak. We are going to do those pieces as we start sewing it. So get the thread for your main bird color, and I usually measure a pretty long one for this one. I go from my fingertips and pull it long and kind of all the way around to my elbow on my second arm. So I've got a really long piece of thread right here. This makes it so I don't have to tie it off mid-project, but if you find you run out of thread, that's okay. You're just going to do a knot like we just did to tie these arms and legs on. Knot off your thread, get a fresh piece, and start over. So this time, instead of doing a double knot here at the end, I'm going to do just a single knot, a single piece of thread in a loop knot. And then we are going to put these 2 bird pieces together. Move those over for a second. If you have pins, this is a great time to pin your pieces together, but you can do this project without pins. And I like to start right under the front legs. I can hide my stitch, get your felt lined up really close together. You're going to grab your needle, and we're just going to go through both pieces of felt. Pull your needle way through. And then instead of having 2 pieces to go through, we're just going to kind of poke it into the middle here. And pull it. If your thread is really long and hard to handle, grab it and pull it down. You don't want 2 loops of thread going through, but you don't want it so long that it's hard to manage. And now we are going to do what is called a blanket stitch, or kind of a modified blanket stitch. And for this, you're going to go through both pieces of felt, and then this tail where you just came through, you're going to wrap it around the front of the needle, and then we're going to pull it all the way through to the end. It's just a little long. And we're going to do that again. We're going to move down just a little bit, have both pieces of felt lined up. Pull that through both pieces and pull it all the way to the end. You are going to want to pull your arms and legs back so they're not getting tangled in it. But through both pieces of felt, grab the tail over the top and pull it through. We're going to keep doing that all the way until the end of its tail, where we're going to add in its tail feather. So keep going until we get to this nub down here with this blanket stitch, where you're going through both, putting the string over the top, pulling it through. Okay, so now we're going to pause right here at the end of this. You can lay your bird flat again and figure out how you want your tail to be placed in it. I just want mine kind of pointing down. So I'm going to do it right here. I'll look at it with my feathers. You know what? Maybe I want it. I want it up. I think I'm going to do it down a little bit. Okay. So then place your tail feathers in, and now instead of doing a blanket stitch, we are going to do what's called a running stitch, and I think this one's even easier. You're going to poke your needle through all 3 pieces of felt, pull it all the way out, and then we're going to move down just a little bit, and then on the same side we're going to poke it through all 3 pieces of felt again. Alright, so now we have the tail attached, and we are going to go back and do the blanket stitch all the way up the back around the head, and we're going to pause when it's time to start adding the beak. When we get to the beak, we're going to go back and do this running stitch again. So through the blanket stitch, you're going to go through both pieces of felt and then just wrap the end of the thread over the top of the needle. Pull it tight. Once you get to about above the eyeball with your blanket stitch, we're going to pause, and you're going to grab the beak piece and figure out how you want your beak to lay. Pushing it in just a little. I like that for mine. Now I think I can fit one more blanket stitch that's maybe going to get the beak in it too. And that's all right. Do my stitch, and then we're going to go back and we're going to do that running stitch, which is just the in and out. So I'm going to go in all 3 pieces. Move it down a little, go out. All right, so now we have the beak attached. And this is probably as good a time as any to start stuffing your bird. So I'm going to start with my felt scraps. And you want to stuff the furthest away pieces first. So I'm going to go for this tail and the head. And you just want to take small bits of felt scraps and push them back. If it's hard to reach all the way there, you can grab back of your scissors or your marker, help you nudge them back. Smooshing it into the head, into the body. Okay, so once you have your bird body stuffed, you're going to pull your thread tight again, and then we're going to go back to the blanket stitch and get all the way to our starting stitch. So it's going to be a little trickier now that we have it stuffed, so go slow. Try to go just through your 2 edge pieces of felt, pull the needle over the top and pull it tight. And you probably, or you might need to push your stuffing in as you go, and that's okay. We can refluff it after we're done sewing it, get everything placed good. Right now, you just want to make sure you're not sewing your stuffing as we're closing your bird up. All right, and then I'm back here to where I started. This is where I'm going to put my last stitch. So I'm going to go back through that beginning, wrap my needle once, twice, pull it down. I'm going to put my thumb to hold it in place as I'm pulling my knot. Put my needle through to knot this in place. Have a little bit of tingly threads with that. Ooh. Okay, and then for my final stitch, I'm going to take my needle. I'm just going to poke it into the body and carefully poke it through the side. And then we'll pull it out. And now I'm going to line my scissors up, pull it a little tight so I'm cutting my string and not my bird. And we are done. If you like this or you're interested in more easy sew tutorials, come back next Monday and I will have another brand new pattern and sew along ready. Be sure to like, subscribe, and follow along.